जय यशोदानन्दना जय ब्रज जनरञ्जना जय यशोदानन्दना जय ब्रज जनरञ्जना जय यमुना तीरवनचारी जय कुंज बिहारी जय यमुना तीरवनचारी जय कुंज बिहारी जय प्रभुपदा श्रीला प्रभुपदा प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा जय गुरुदेवा 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 जय गुरुदेवा Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for staying for the class. Today is actually a special presentation considering the festival that we'll be having on Wednesday for Lord Shiva. And I'll be glorifying Lord Shiva in regards to his position with Lord Krishna. So please bear with me. The class will finish by about 1:30 and then prasadam will be served. नमो ओम विष्णु पादाय कृष्ण प्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधर शिवास आदि गौर भक्तवृंदा हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम Rama Rama Hare Hare. So today is February 23rd, and as I mentioned earlier, the great festival known as Shivaratri is scheduled for Wednesday, February 26th. So my class today is actually going to be focusing on Lord Shiva. How many of you know about Lord Shiva? Please raise your hands. So there's some who don't know, so I'll be hopefully in my humble attempt give you information about Lord Shiva, who he is and what his position is with regard to Lord Krishna. So we'll start with Bhagavad Gita chapter 10 verse 23. Bhagavad Gita as it is given to us by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Chapter 10 is entitled The Opulence of the Absolute. So please repeat after me. Rudranam Shankaraschasmi Vittesho Yaksha Rakshasam Vasunam Pavakas Chasmi Meruhu Shikharinam Aham. Of all the Rudras, I am Lord Shiva. Of the Yakshas and Rakshasas, I am the Lord of wealth, Kubera. Of the Vasus, I am fire, Agni. And of mountains, I am Meru. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. There are 11 Rudras, of whom Shankar, Lord Shiva, is predominant. He is the incarnation of the Supreme Lord in charge of the mode of ignorance in the universe. The leader of the Yakshas and the Rakshasas is Kubera, the master treasurer of the demigods, and he is a representation of the Supreme Lord. Meru is a mountain famed for its rich natural resources. Kindly repeat after me. Of all the Rudras, I am Lord Shiva. Of the Yakshas and the Rakshasas, I am the Lord of wealth, Kubera. Of the Vasus, I am fire, Agni. And of mountains, I am Meru. Om Ajnanaatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. So as I mentioned here, this class is going to focus strictly on Lord Shiva. And we will be going over these elements. I'll give you a little background about Lord Shiva first. His position, as is mentioned in a variety of Shastras, the origin of Lord Shiva, how he looks like, where he lives, his few qualities. He has a lot of tremendous number of qualities. We'll talk about just a few. And then, if time permits, a few of his very unique pastimes. And then we'll end with prayers that are offered by Lord Shiva to Lord Krishna. So we'll start with the background, and we will see how Lord Shiva holds a supremely important position for Vaishnavas. He is regarded as the greatest Vaishnava. And this is written in Srimad Bhagavatam, 12th canto, 13th chapter, 16th verse. Nimna ganam yatha ganga devanam achyuto yatha Vaishnavanam yatha shambhu Purananam idam tatha. Just as the Ganga is the greatest of all rivers, Lord Achyuta, the supreme among deities, and Lord Shambhu, Shiva, the greatest of Vaishnavas, so Srimad Bhagavatam is the greatest of all Purans. So this is actually written in our most important scripture, Srimad Bhagavatam, where it is mentioned how supreme Lord Shiva is. He is regarded as the greatest Vaishnava. A Vaishnava is a person who worships and prays to Lord Vishnu. So we'll continue with the background here. The word Shiva, we've heard of the word Shiva, Shambhu, Shankar. The word Shiva means the one who is most auspicious. And we are all looking for something auspicious in our lives. We go to great lengths to do something which will bring us auspiciousness in our lives. And it is mentioned, the word Shiva, it means the most auspicious. And Shiva, Lord Shiva, is one of the Guna avatars. That means he is representing the mode of ignorance. There are three modes: mode of goodness, mode of passion, and mode of ignorance. In the mode of goodness is Lord Vishnu. In the mode of passion is Lord Brahma. And in the mode of ignorance is Lord Shiva. So he is a Guna avatar. And he is part of the Trinity. I just mentioned the Trinity: Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesh. And Lord Shiva holds a very important position in the Trinity. And most importantly, as mentioned in the Bhagavatam 6.3.20, he is one of the 12 Mahajans. The 12 Mahajans hold a very important position, and they are pure devotees of the Lord. And I'm just going to read the names of the other 11 Mahajans. Lord Shiva is the 12th. The others are Lord Brahma, Narad Muni, of course Lord Shiva, the 4 Kumars, Lord Kapila, the son of Mother Devahuti, Swayambhuva Manu, Prahlad Maharaj, Janak Maharaj, Bhishma, Bali Maharaj, Sukadev Goswami, and Yamaraj. These are the 12 Mahajans, and Lord Shiva is one of them. So Lord Shiva has a very, very unique position. In fact, it is mentioned he has a separate tattva known as Shiva Tattva. He is neither falling in the living entity category, that means he is not the Jeev Tattva, and at the same time he is not Vishnu Tattva. So he is somewhere in between. So we cannot regard him as a pure demigod or a pure living entity. He is falling somewhere in between. And he is the most powerful, only second to whom? Krishna. He is second to Krishna. And it is mentioned here, this is the Trinity I wanted to show you. Lord Vishnu is in the center, Lord Brahma is on the left, and Lord Shiva is on the right here. Krishna has 64 qualities. Lord Vishnu has 60 qualities. Lord Shiva has 54 qualities. And Lord Brahma, who is representing the Jeev Tattva, has 50 qualities. Does anybody know what are the 4 special qualities that Lord Krishna has, which no other person has, no other celestial being has? Does anyone remember? He has a flute, yes. So Lord Krishna reserves 4 very special qualities for himself. The first one is Leela Madhuri. That means he is known for performing wonderful, amazing, sweet pastimes, such as the Ras Leela. Second is he is surrounded by his devotees. Lord Krishna never comes alone by himself. He is always with his devotees. The third is, as one of you mentioned, Venu Madhuri, which means he has a very unique and sweet sounding flute. Even Lord Vishnu does not carry a flute. Lord Ram doesn't carry a flute. Lord Narasimha Dev doesn't carry a flute. Only Shyam Sundar, the threefold bending form of Krishna, carries the flute. And the last one is Roop Madhurya, which means Krishna is the most beautiful. So these 4 qualities are reserved only for Lord Krishna, and others don't have it here. And what does the family of Lord Shiva look like? His wife has various names. She is known by a variety of names: Sati, Parvati, Uma, Durga, Bhavani. And she is in charge of the material world or the material universe. And he has 2 wonderful sons. The older one is Kartikeya. He's a general in the army. He's a great warrior. And the second one is Ganesh. And Lord Ganesh is known for removing obstacles from the path of anything that we intend to do, at least at the material realm here. So that is Lord Shiva's family. And what is Lord Shiva responsible for? Lord Shiva is responsible for the destruction of the entire universe when the time of annihilation comes. During annihilation, the entire universe will be destroyed. And it is mentioned that Lord Shiva will do a very special dance, and that dance will lead to the destruction of the entire universe. And this is a very beautiful picture showing Lord Shiva in a representation of his dancing stance. What is the dance known as? Does anyone know? Tandav Nritya. So we definitely do not want to make Lord Shiva angry, because when he is angry, he would actually get into the mood of destruction. And I'm going to share a little pastime where somebody angered him and he destroyed that personality. So we'll look into those pastimes also. So let's move into part 2, which is discussing the position of Lord Shiva. Please remember one thing: Lord Shiva is not on the same platform of Lord Krishna. Lord Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and Lord Shiva is his subordinate. He is the greatest Vaishnava. Vaishnava Nam Yatha Shambhu, we just read. So what exactly is the position of Lord Shiva? So in our Shastras, there are wide variety of mentions of the position of Lord Shiva, and I've given a small subset of the references given in various Shastras such as Brahma Samhita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Hari Bhakti Vilas by Srila Sanatana Goswami, Padma Puran, Skanda Puran, and Bhakti Sandarbha by Srila Jiva Goswami. So I'm just going to read a few of those which will give you a little appreciation about the position of Lord Shiva. Srila Prabhupada writes, quote, Lord Shiva is not actually like a living entity Jiva, but he is not the Supreme Personality of Godhead. His position is somewhere between Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and Brahma, the living entity. In Brahma Samhita 5.45, it is mentioned, this is actually very, very nicely mentioned in Brahma Samhita. This will give you a very clear indication of how Lord Shiva stands with regard to Lord Krishna. Quote, just as milk is transformed into curd by the action of acids, but yet the effect curd is neither same as nor different from its cause, that is the milk, so I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, of whom the state of Shambhu is a transformation for the performance of the work of destruction. I'm sure most of you know what is milk and what is curd. So curd comes from milk, but the curd cannot be turned back into milk. So in this case, Lord Krishna is milk and Lord Shiva is curd. Yet simultaneously the same, yet different, resorting to the Achintya Bheda Bhed Tattva of Lord Chaitanya. And it is mentioned also in Bhagavatam 4.30.24, in the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes, Lord Shiva is considered to be like yogurt. Yogurt is nothing but transformed milk. Nonetheless, yogurt cannot be accepted as milk. Similarly, Lord Shiva holds almost all the powers of Lord Vishnu. And he is also above the qualities of the living entity. But he is not like Vishnu. Just as yogurt, although transformed milk, is not exactly like milk. So through this analogy, one can clearly understand how Lord Shiva is similar to Lord Vishnu, but yet quite different from him. Again, in the Bhagavatam 3.8.22, it is mentioned, the blessed Lord Shiva becomes all the more blessed by bearing on his head the holy waters of the Ganges, which has its source in the water that washed the Lord's lotus feet. And we'll talk about this pastime a little bit later. In Hari Bhakti Vilas, it is mentioned, it is said that anyone who puts the Supreme Lord and the demigods, including Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma, on the same level at once becomes an atheist. We should never consider the Supreme Lord Vishnu and the demigods to be on an equal footing. This is clearly listed here that we cannot put the demigods and Lord Krishna on the same platform. We'll continue with just a few more. In Padma Puran, Lord Shiva is talking to his wife, Mother Sati, and he says, Shri Rama Rama Ram Eti Rama Rama Manorame Sahasranam Tat Tulyam Ramanam Varanane. Lord Shiva says that he simply is chanting the name of Lord Ram day in and day out. In Bhagavatam 4.24.76, Lord Shiva states that if anyone reads his Rudra Gita, by the way, Lord Shiva has also chanted some prayers which is known as Rudra Gita, then he will invoke the mercy of Lord Krishna simply by chanting the Rudra Gita. In Bhagavad Gita 11.15, it is mentioned, when Krishna displayed his universal form to Arjun, Arjun said, my dear Lord Krishna, I see assembled in your body all the demigods and various other living entities. I see Brahma sitting on the lotus flower, as well as Lord Shiva and all the sages and divine serpents. So this clearly indicates that Lord Shiva is not the supreme, Lord Krishna is the supreme, because through all these indications which are given in our Shastras. And then also it is mentioned here, Lord Shiva's son himself, Kartikeya, has said in Skanda Puran, accept the verdict of the Shiva Shastras, such as Shiva Puran, as long as it is in the line and in accordance with the conclusions of Bhagavad Shastras, because there is only one supreme, Lord Vishnu. And finally, in 4.3.23 of Bhagavatam, it is said, I am always engaged in offering obeisances to Lord Vasudeva in pure Krishna consciousness, in which the Supreme Personality of Godhead, known as Vasudeva, is revealed without any covering. And this is mentioned by Lord Shiva to Mother Parvati. And finally, Srila Jiva Goswami says in Bhakti Sandarbha 216, whenever the scriptures describe the spiritual master and Lord Shiva as being non-different from Krishna, pure devotees understand that this is because of their being most dear to Sri Krishna. So I just wanted to give you evidence from the Shastras which actually clearly indicate the position of Lord Shiva as being subordinate to Lord Krishna. We'll move on to the third part, which is talking about the origin of Lord Shiva. And there is a lot of confusion here. Was Shiva ever born? Where did he appear from? Who gave birth to Lord Shiva? So there's a lot of confusion, and depending on which Shastra you're reading, there would be more confusion here. So we're going to actually resort to the Shastras in our Vaishnava tradition, Srimad Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita, and I'll talk a little bit about Vayu Puran also. So it is mentioned here in Srimad Bhagavatam 5.17.16 as well as Chaitanya Charitamrita that there are 3 types of Shivas. So first is known as Sadashiva, the second is known as Shambhu, and the third is known as Rudras or the Shiva as we know here. So where does Sadashiva reside and who is Sadashiva? Sadashiva is actually the incarnation of Lord Krishna. Could I please request a little quiet in the top here, please? May I request the family? Thank you. So Sadashiva is the incarnation of Lord Krishna, and it is mentioned here. Krishna actually expands as Chaturvyuha, Vasudev, Anirudh, Pradyumna and Sankarshana. That is the first Chaturvyuha. And Sadashiva arises from Sankarshana. This is mentioned in the Bhagavatam. Lord Shiva knows that Sankarshana is the original cause of his own existence, and thus he always sits in trance meditating upon Lord Sankarshana. This is mentioned here. And this Sadashiva is the material cause of the world, and Lord Vishnu is the efficient cause here. So this is clearly listed in Chaitanya Charitamrita as well as the Vayu Puran. So Sadashiva is coming as an incarnation of Lord Krishna, and he is residing in the spiritual world. He is not in the material world. Then the second aspect is known as Shambhu. Does anyone know what the meaning of Shambhu is? It's another name for Lord Shiva, but what does it mean? Lord Shiva means the most auspicious. What does Shambhu mean? Shambhu means the source of happiness or bliss. And this Shambhu is actually residing in the intermediate sky. Not in the material world, not in the spiritual world, somewhere in between. And he is residing with his wife Maya Devi, who is an expansion of Mother Lakshmi or Rama Devi. And the third one, as we know, Lord Shiva is residing in the sort of the material sky, and he has 11 different Rudra expansions here. So this is basically sort of the hierarchy of the 3 kinds of Shiva: Sadashiva, Shambhu and the Rudras here. And it can get extremely complicated. I don't want to go too much deep into it, but this is a very preliminary description of Lord Shiva into his 3 separate forms here. Then another story which talks about the origin of Lord Shiva, which is very interesting story, is recounted in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 12, text 14 onwards here. It is mentioned here that Lord Brahma was given the responsibility of populating the material universe and generating the population and progeny. So Lord Brahma went to the 4 Kumars. We know about the 4 Kumars, they are pure devotees of the Lord. And he gave them the order, it is your job to reproduce and populate the universe. And the 4 Kumars said, we will not do it. We don't want to get entangled in Grihastha ashram. We don't want to get entangled in material world. We want to focus our complete attention on Lord Krishna. So unfortunately, we will not be able to follow your order. And so Lord Brahma is completely angry that he's given a command to the 4 Kumaras and they're refusing to do what he wants them to do. So he curses them. He curses them, since you are disobeying my command, I curse you that you will never grow old. You will remain in these 4 childlike positions. And the 4 Kumars thanked him for the curse. Why did they thank him? Because they said, if we are not able to grow, we will not develop any attachment for women. So your curse is actually a blessing for us. We will remain as 4 small children. But Lord Brahma was very angry. And it is said, from between his eyebrows, in his anger, a manifestation of anger, came a personality. You can see it on the picture here. And that personality came out crying very loudly. And that personality is known as Rudra. And because he was crying so much, Lord Brahma gave him the name known as Rudra. And Rudra was crying and he was asking Lord Brahma, you have created me, but what am I supposed to do? And where should I live? And Lord Brahma told Rudra that I have designated several places where you can reside. And those places are the heart, the senses, the life air of the body, the sky, the air, the fire, water, earth, sun, moon, and austerity. And Lord Brahma also said there are 11 other names of yours. So we won't go into the names, but these are the 11 Rudras. So this particular Shiva is the one we mostly talk about. We hardly talk about Sadashiva, and there is not much written about Sadashiva in the scriptures except the ones that I mentioned here. So this is what we refer to as Shiva. So where does Lord Shiva live? Lord Shiva actually lives in his abode, which is known as Mahesh Dham. And I have a very complicated picture of the cosmological universe here, and we can give a class which can last for 3 hours only on this one slide, talking about the position of the various planetary systems, the material world, the spiritual world, and here you can see this is the Dham of Lord Shiva. So Lord Shiva is residing in this universe here. So now we'll move on to the next part, which is talking about the appearance of Lord Shiva. How many of you get scared looking at the form of Lord Shiva? Is there anybody who gets scared? Okay, we have a young person here who gets, why do you get scared of Lord Shiva? Most because of the snakes. Lord Shiva has actually got a very, very beautiful form. The form that we see, which is shown here, is a form of a devotee of Lord Krishna. And he is extremely unique. You will never find a demigod, so to speak, anywhere close to looking like Lord Shiva. So we'll start. He's a very young man. He has long hair, and in his matted hair is a personality known as Mother Ganga. We'll talk about that pastime just a few minutes from now. And he is also holding the moon, the crescent moon, in his hair here. And we'll see where this moon is coming from. His complexion is whitish bluish, and his neck is very dark blue. Why is his neck so blue? Sorry? Poison. We'll talk about that pastime also. And Lord Shiva has 3 eyes. There is a third eye right here. And when does that third eye open? At the time of destruction or annihilation. And it is mentioned he is Panchamukha. He has 5 heads, although we don't see those 5 heads regularly. And he is holding a trident. A trident is a trishul. And the trishul, the three spears of the trishul indicates he is the controller of the 3 modes of nature. He is not, although he is representing the mode of ignorance, he is not impacted by those 3 modes. That means he is completely in control. We'll take the questions later. Thank you. And then he is also holding a dambru, which is known as a musical instrument. And he plays that dambru under various conditions. When he is dancing, he plays that. And when he's in a good mood, he plays that. And when he's in a mood of destruction, he plays that. So that has multiple roles here. And he is also sometimes in a position of Abhaya Mudra, which means he's giving blessings to his devotees. And he is also, as one of you mentioned here, he has snakes wrapped around him. Snakes are on his arms, we have snakes on his wrist, and we have snakes on his neck also. And these snakes actually represent ego. And so, because the Lord Shiva has snakes around him, they don't bite him. Why? Because he is completely controlling the ego, and that is the representation of the snakes. So the snakes don't do any harm to Lord Shiva. And very interestingly, he wears a deer skin loincloth, hardly anything he wears, and his entire body is smeared with the ash coming from the crematorium. So if somebody were to describe this personality to you, it's very natural to be scared. But he is the greatest Vaishnava, he is the greatest worshipper of Lord Vishnu here. And he is also portrayed with an animal, and that animal is a powerful, mighty bull whose name is Nandi. And what does Nandi represent? The bull Nandi represents the animal tendencies, particularly the urge for sex. And here it is mentioned that Lord Shiva sits on Nandi and tames Nandi and controls Nandi, the bull. So what does that mean? That Lord Shiva is never disturbed by sexual desires, ever, never. He is fully under control. In fact, every time you see him in a meditative mood and his eyes are closed. One day, Mother Parvati, his wife, asked him, "Oh my Lord, I have seen all your followers. His followers are ghosts, goblins, and very strange looking creatures. And they're always meditating, they're glorifying Lord Shiva, that you are the supreme." And so one day Mother Parvati asks, everybody's glorifying you and they're telling you you are the supreme. So if you are the supreme, whom are you meditating on? Because if you are the supreme, then there's no one above you. And Lord Shiva responds with a kind smile, "Oh Durga, there is one above me, and that is Lord Krishna. And it is upon whom I am actually meditating." Lord Shiva is himself telling Mother Parvati here. And then she desired to see that form of Lord Krishna. And then of course we know there is a whole story how she came as Simantani Devi and she got the darshan of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Rudrapur, which is in close to Mayapur in Navadvip Dham. So that is a story in itself here. So this is a basic appearance of Lord Shiva here. Now we'll briefly touch upon some of the qualities of Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva has a lot of qualities. He has 54 qualities. We won't have time to go over all the 54, but we'll see some of the qualities. One of them is benevolence. That means he's very kind-hearted. Lord Shiva is very, very kind-hearted. And there is a story in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 17, that when Lord Vamandev was going to Bali Maharaj and asking for 3 steps of land. In the third step, in the first step, he actually pierced, I think the second step, he pierced the entire covering of the material universe, and he made a little hole in the sky. And from that hole came Mother Ganga. And it is mentioned Mother Ganga has a very, very powerful flow, extremely powerful flow. And when she was falling on the material sky, in the material world, if she fell without any obstacle in the material world will be completely destroyed. So someone had to come and take the weight of Mother Ganga, the flowing water. And Lord Shiva, because of his extreme kindness, he came forward and said, "I will hold Mother Ganga in my hair." So you can see this is his benevolence, and Mother Ganga's rushing flow of water came and Lord Shiva caught her in his matted hair, and this is where Mother Ganga actually resides, as a result of which her flow toned down quite significantly, and so the material world was never destroyed. The second pastime, which is very, very important to us, is the churning of the ocean of milk here. This is again his benevolence, and again this is a very, very beautiful pastime in Bhagavatam, Canto 8, Chapter 7, Text 41 recounted. When the demigods and the demons were churning the ocean of milk using Vasuki, the snake, and when they were churning it to get the nectar of immortality, the demons wanted to become immortal and never be destroyed. They were churning, and of course the nectar didn't come out immediately. There were a lot of things that came out from the ocean, including the moon, which is decorating Lord Shiva's head. But one thing that came out was poison, and that poison is known as halahal. And this poison, of course, poison kills everybody, and it is mentioned that nobody was willing to take care of this poison. And if this poison was allowed to go everywhere, nobody would survive in the material universe. So Lord Shiva, out of his kindness, he made a proposition that I will take the poison in myself. So this poison does not destroy anybody. But before I do that, I need to ask my wife. So he goes to Mother Parvati and he says, am I allowed to take the poison? And Mother Parvati says, yes. To save, who is Mother Parvati? She is the mother, she is Durga, she is the controller of the material universe. So all the living entities are indirectly her children. So she wanted to save them, and so she told her husband, Lord Shiva, yes, of course. So Lord Shiva took the bowl of poison, he started drinking it. And Mother Parvati stopped him that if you drink the entire poison, it will completely, destroy your body. So she stopped him, and Lord Shiva kept the poison in his throat. Stopped it there. And that is why he is known as Neelkantha. Neel means blue, Kantha means neck. And so Lord Shiva even today is holding that poison in his neck. Imagine the power of Lord Shiva. This is his kindness. Another pastime is resorting to seeing the most beautiful form of Lord Krishna, known as Mohini Murti. This is again tied to the pastime where the demigods and the demons were churning the ocean of milk, and out came the nectar of immortality, which was carried by the most gorgeous woman known as Mohini Murti. Who is she? She is Krishna himself. And she is carrying the nectar. And it is mentioned that she was so beautiful that everyone was awestruck by her beauty. Lord Shiva was not there at that time, but he heard about this pastime. And he prayed to Lord Krishna, "Oh Lord Krishna, I have heard a lot about your incarnation as Mohini Murti. I want to see this form of yours." And Lord, remember I told you, Lord Shiva, nobody can disturb Lord Shiva. He is completely under control. And Lord Vishnu is smiling. He says, are you sure you want to see this form of mine? And Lord Shiva is saying, yes, please give me darshan of this form. And Lord Vishnu immediately changes to Mohini Murti. And it is mentioned here, Mohini Murti is so beautiful that Lord Shiva started chasing her. And actually, Lord Shiva was not chasing her as a woman. Lord Shiva was attracted to her because she was representing Lord Krishna. Lord Shiva is not attracted to any ordinary woman. In fact, Mother Parvati had to do many austerities to gain Lord Shiva as a husband. So please don't misunderstand this, that Lord Shiva is running after an ordinary woman. He is not. He is the greatest Vaishnava. He is attracted to Lord Krishna in his form as Mohini Murti, and that Krishna wanted to show that my illusory energy is so strong that everybody can become deluded by it. And Lord Shiva is actually telling Lord Krishna here that, yes, oh my Lord, I was deluded by your illusory energy. Mohini Murti is an impermanent, temporary form of Lord Krishna here. So this is showing you Lord Shiva's innocence. Another quality of Lord Shiva is he is Ashutosh, which means he is very easily pleased. So the demons actually pray and perform a lot of austerities to Lord Shiva. We've heard of Ravan, there's Jayadratha, there's Shalva, and there is a demon known as Brikasura. Brikasura was trying to pray to Lord Shiva to gain great boons and become immortal. So Brikasura prayed and prayed and prayed, and he started cutting pieces of his flesh and offering in the fire to please Lord Shiva. And Lord Shiva did not come. Eventually, he said, I will cut off my head and give it to Lord Shiva. And as he was he was almost on the verge of cutting off his head to appease Lord Shiva immediately came right there and said, I am very pleased by your austerities. Ask me for a boon. And Brikasura says, he asked for a very unusual boon. He said, my Lord, please give me a boon that whoever's head I put my hand on, that person should die. So this is Brikasura asking, very evil-minded. And Lord Shiva is so sweet and so innocent and so easy to please. He says, I give you that boon. But Brikasura, being a demon, is very nasty and very evil-minded. And Brikasura wants to test the boon, whether this boon is actually going to work or not. So what does he do? He says, I'm going to test the boon that you gave me by putting my hand on your head. And this is terrible because this is the demoniac inclination, that somebody who benefits you, you want to destroy that very person. And so it is said Lord Shiva gets really alarmed because he's given the boon and he cannot take it back. So Lord Shiva is running away and he falls at the feet of Lord Vishnu. And he says, I've made a mistake. I've given a demon this boon, but I cannot take that boon back. And now Vrikasura is trying to destroy me by putting his hand on my head. Please do something. Lord Vishnu smiles gently and says, I will take care of it. Remember, Lord Shiva is taking shelter of Lord Krishna in this case here. So Lord Vishnu comes to Vrikasura and says, oh, I heard you have a beautiful boon. Who gave you that boon? And he says, Lord Shiva gave that boon. And he says, what is the boon? He says, oh, the boon is that whosever head I touch with my hand, that person will be destroyed. Lord Vishnu starts laughing loudly. And Vrikasura says, why are you laughing? Lord Vishnu says, oh, you cannot trust Lord Shiva. He's always joking. And he doesn't give these boons. And if he gives these boons, they are not true. So you should not listen to Lord Shiva. In fact, this boon is false. I can assure you, because Lord Shiva cannot be trusted. And so Vrikasura says, oh, is that so? He gets baffled by Lord Vishnu's word. Lord Vishnu says, yes, this boon is not true. You can test it. Vrikasura says, how do I test it? He says, just put your hand on your head. And this is exactly what Vrikasura does. He puts his hand on his head, he's destroyed right away. So this is Lord Vishnu actually, through his very smart presence of mind, actually leads to the destruction of Vrikasura. Another quality, as I mentioned earlier, is as Lord Shiva can be pleased, he can also be angered as quickly. So we have to make sure we don't anger Lord Shiva under any condition here. So this is a pastime where the Prajapati Daksha, who is Lord Shiva's father-in-law, was holding a very big fire sacrifice, and Lord Shiva's wife Sati wanted to go and attend that sacrifice, but Lord Shiva was not invited. And so Lord Shiva said, since your father has not invited me, I will not go. But Mother Sati, being attached to her family members, said, oh my Lord, please give me permission to go. And Sati goes. But then later, Lord Shiva also comes. And it is mentioned that Lord Shiva goes and sits in the assembly. This is in Bhagavatam also. And he's sitting there. And his father-in-law comes, Daksha. And every single person rises in the assembly and pays respect to him, except one person, and that is Lord Shiva. And Lord Shiva is a supreme compared to Daksha, and so he doesn't get up. But Daksha is guided by a sense of vanity. And he sees everybody is standing up and offering me respect, except Lord Shiva, my son-in-law. So Daksha gets very, very angry, and he starts insulting Lord Shiva in the assembly. Lord Shiva is completely quiet in the assembly and hearing all this. But Mother Sati, his wife, cannot tolerate it, that her husband is being ridiculed and insulted in an assembly. So she says, it is better for me to die rather than listen to this insult for my husband, and she immolates herself. And she dies. It is mentioned when Lord Shiva gets to know that his wife has committed immolation, he gets extremely angry, and from his hair, he plucks a hair, and from his hair comes out a demon known as Veerabhadra. And he tells that demon, destroy everybody in this assembly. So this is giving you a little glimpse about Lord Shiva here. And I'll talk a little bit Lord Shiva's anger here. And there's some other pastimes here where Lord Shiva is known to be very, very merciful upon the Vaishnavas, where he chanted the Rudra Gita to the Prachetas, as mentioned in Bhagavatam 4:30, and he also gave his mercy to Markandeya Rishi. We won't have time to go over these pastimes, but these are some of his qualities here. And I also want to impress upon you that Lord Shiva is also known as Digpal. He is the protector of all the dhams. For us, in our Vaishnava tradition, Vrindavan, Mayapur, and Mathura and Gokul hold predominant importance, because this is where Lord Krishna appeared and performed his pastimes. So Lord Shiva stays in these dhams as protector of these dhams. In Vrindavan, he is known as Gopeshwar Mahadev. In Kamyavan, Kameshwar Mahadev. In Govardhan Hill, Chakaleshwar Mahadev. In Nandagaon, Nandeshwar Mahadev. In Mathura as Bhuteshwar Mahadev. And these are some of the images of all the Mahadevs that I talked about. Gopeshwar Mahadev is very unique. That means Gopi. We'll talk about that pastime in the next 3 or 4 minutes. I just want to touch upon some of the pastimes here. So really quick, if you can just stay for another 4 minutes, these pastimes will show you the importance of Lord Shiva here. So when Lord Krishna appeared in Mathura and he was being raised in Gokul, Lord Shiva developed a great desire to see Lord Shiva, to see Lord Krishna. After all, Lord Krishna is his worshipable Lord. So he came as Lord Shiva in the house of Mother Yashoda. And Mother Yashoda saw him and she became very, very scared. And Lord Shiva said, "Oh, Mother Yashoda, please let me have a glimpse of your little boy Krishna." And Mother Yashoda said, "Oh, no, 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 go away from here. You are so strange looking. If my little baby looks at you, he will faint and he will get very scared." So Lord Shiva becomes very disappointed because he really wanted to see Lord Krishna, and he goes away. The moment he goes away, baby Krishna starts crying. Crying. And now the ladies, Mother Yashoda including, and all the gopis are very worried. Why is this little baby Krishna crying so much? Why is he crying? And they're trying their best to see why is he crying. He's not stopping, he's just crying away. So one of the gopis says that maybe somebody has cast an evil eye on little baby Krishna. Why don't we get that person back who came in the morning? Let us get him back. So they call back Lord Shiva, and Lord Shiva comes there and says, and again Mother Yashoda is very, very scared of him because she's really scared to see that form of his. And Lord Shiva says, "Oh, Mother Yashoda, please place the little lotus feet of your baby boy upon my head." And the moment Lord Krishna as a baby sees Lord Shiva and places his feet upon the head of Lord Shiva, he immediately stops crying and starts smiling. And this is a very, very beautiful pastime. And it is mentioned here, this occurred in Nandgaon. So even today, Lord Shiva told Mother Yashoda that, "Thank you so much for giving me this blessing of your Lord Krishna." And Mother Yashoda says, "You have stopped the crying of my child, so please stay here permanently. So in case my child cries again, you can come and see him again." So it is said that Lord Shiva resides in Nandgaon as the hill, and he asked Mother Yashoda that whenever you bathe your baby, the Charnamrita that has washed his lotus feet, please bring it to me. And anytime you offer food to Lord Krishna, please bring me the remnants. So even today, up until today, 5,000 years later, even today in Nandgaon, the Charnamrita of Lord Krishna as well as the Prasad of Lord Krishna is offered to Lord Shiva even today here. So this is a pastime there. Another pastime is where Lord Shiva desired to see the beautiful divine dance of Krishna with the gopis, the Rasa Leela. But in that dance, there is only one Purush, and that is Krishna. All the others are the female representations. So Lord Shiva could not enter that arena because he's in the form of a male body. So he goes to the spiritual master of Vrindavan, known as Pauranmasi, and he asked Pauranmasi, "I really, really want to see my Lord dancing. I want to see him dancing. What can I do?" Pauranmasi says, you cannot enter that arena because you're in the male form." So Lord Shiva is very disappointed. He says, "Please, tell me what I can do." She says, "You can only enter that arena if you become a gopi, because only gopis are allowed to enter." So she gives him a little clue that you go to Yamuna, take a dip, and then come out and you'll be able to enter. It is mentioned Lord Shiva goes to Mother Yamuna, takes a dip, and he comes out as a gopi. So you see this, Lord Shiva is in the form of a gopi. And there's another story where he went to Vrinda Devi, and Vrinda Devi told him to go to Mansarovar, take a dip, but the result was the same. He came out after taking a dip and he was a gopi. So he entered the arena of Ras Leela, and all the gopis saw him and they said, "Who is this new gopi? We've never seen her before. Who is this?" So all of them come and surround the gopi. And they said, "Who are you? What is your name? Who is your father? Who is your mother? Who's your sister? Where do you live? What do you do?" And Lord Shiva was completely baffled because he was asked all these questions and he had no answer for that. At that time, they came to know that he is Lord Shiva. And they said, "Unfortunately, only the gopis, real gopis, are allowed to be in the Ras Leela. So unfortunately, you cannot participate in the Ras Leela. So Lord Shiva, although he was disappointed, Lord Krishna gave him a boon. You are my very dear devotee. So I give you the boon that you will be the protector of all the dhams, Vrindavan, Mathura, and the various places I said. And anybody who comes to do a parikrama or wants to visit all the dhams first have to take permission from you. This was the supreme blessing given to Lord Shiva. And that is why I named all those personalities which are residing and taking care of the dhams. Gopeshwar Mahadev is Lord Shiva in the form of a gopi. And then we also know another, that Shankaracharya, who came to preach impersonalism, a very incorrect philosophy, is an incarnation of Lord Shiva. So it is mentioned when people were misinterpreting the Vedas and they were randomly killing animals, it is mentioned that Buddha came. Buddha is the incarnation of Lord Krishna, who rejected the Vedas in order to save the animals and propound non-violence, ahimsa. But Buddha was an atheist. So to bring back the knowledge of the Vedas, it is mentioned that Lord Shiva's incarnation, Shankaracharya, came, who actually believed in the Vedas but propounded a very negative philosophy known as impersonalism, which is Advaita. Dvaita means dual, Advaita means non-dual, indicating that the super soul and the soul are the same, which is incorrect. So that is another pastime. I think I won't have, I just want to mention this pastime, the last pastime, is, it is mentioned that there was a demon whose name was Tarakasura. And Tarakasura was doing great austerities. And he was doing a lot of tapasya. And Lord Brahma was pleased by him and he said, ask me, what do you want? And Tarakasura said, make me the strongest, that I will not be killed by anybody. And the only person who can kill me is the son of Lord Shiva. And Lord Brahma gives him the boon. Now Lord Shiva at that time had lost his wife Sati. And he was completely devastated because of the loss of his wife, and he was single. And at that stage he had decided, of course he had resolved he would never marry again. So now Tarakasura became very arrogant that Lord Shiva will never marry again, so there is no question of a son being born. So basically he thought he was invincible. So now the demigods became very, very scared because Tarakasura started taking over all the demigods, and he put the demigods in a very lowly position. So they started talking about themselves that somehow or the other, we have to get Lord Shiva to get married so that he produces a son and that son can kill Tarakasura. So they take the help of the Lord of Love. Who is the Lord of Love? Kandarpa. He is a demigod, Kandarpa. And they said, Kandarpa, Lord Shiva is meditating. You go and shoot your arrows of love in his heart, so he will be disturbed and he will be attracted to the opposite sex, and as a result of which he will get married and a child will be produced, and that child will be responsible for killing Tarakasura. And this is the pastime where Kandarpa is shooting an arrow of flowers, trying to disturb Lord Shiva's meditation. And Lord Shiva is meditating on Krishna. And Lord Shiva gets very, very angry. From his third eye comes flames, and those flames actually completely destroyed Kandarpa. And Kandarpa's wife is Rati, and when she sees her husband being destroyed, she cries and she prays to Lord Shiva, oh my Lord, please don't destroy my husband, raise him back. And Lord Shiva says, I cannot raise him back. He will remain in a subtle body, but he will get his original body back in Dwapar Yuga when he takes birth as one of the sons of Krishna known as Pradyumna. So Pradyumna is actually one of the forms of Kandarpa here. So this is very, very sort of condensed version of some of the pastimes of Lord Krishna here. And Shivaratri, which is on Wednesday, is the night of Lord Shiva and Mother Parvati. This is the day they got married. In fact, it is mentioned here that when Mother Parvati's parents, Himavat and Maina, were looking for a boy, Lord Shiva actually, Mother Parvati had heard a lot about Lord Shiva's glories, so she had resolved that I am going to marry only Lord Shiva, nobody else. So Narad Muni came there and said, let me read your daughter's horoscope. And so he read Mother Parvati's horoscope and he said, your daughter is very fortunate. She is going to marry a great personality. So Parvati's parents became very, very happy. And then Narad Muni said, but, and so the parents became like very nervous, but what? And so Narad Muni said, this person she will marry is very, very unique. And he described Lord Shiva. He'll have snakes. He will not wear anything except deer skin. He'll have 5 heads, 3 eyes. And the moment they heard that, Mother Parvati's mother fainted. She says, I will never let my daughter marry anybody like this. And finally, she was able to be convinced that Lord Shiva is the right person for her. And Mother Parvati conducted a lot of austerities to gain Lord Shiva as a husband. And during the time when Lord Shiva was coming with his followers to take the hand of Mother Parvati, her mother, Parvati's mother, was waiting to welcome the groom's party. And before the groom came, all the wonderful demigods were coming. Kuvera came, Vishwavasu came, Gandharvas, and Gandharvas are very beautiful looking. And Parvati's mother did not know what Lord Shiva looked like because she had never seen him. So when the Gandharvas came, she says, oh, Lord Shiva must be one of them. They are so beautiful. And Narad Muni said, no, that's not him. Then came Vayu, then came Varun, then came Chandra, then came Surya. And she kept on thinking, this must be Lord Shiva, this must be Lord Shiva, because they're all so beautiful looking. And Narad Muni kept on saying, no, this is not him, this is not him. And finally Lord Shiva came. And Narad Muni said, this is Lord Shiva. And she fainted. And she said, this is going to be my son-in-law? No way. She says, I will not accept him as my son-in-law. And she refused to give Parvati to Lord Shiva. And finally, they had to take the help of Lord Vishnu. And Lord Vishnu said, oh Maina, you have no idea what a wonderful son-in-law you're getting. And he glorified Lord Shiva. And finally, Maina, mother of Parvati, said, it seems like Lord Shiva is a very, very, very exalted personality. And it is also mentioned that Narad Muni told Lord Shiva, please show your beautiful form. And he showed his beautiful form, which is different from his, this form that I described to you. And finally, Mother Parvati's mother, Maina, was convinced that Lord Shiva is the right husband for her. And she happily gave Mother Parvati away to Lord Shiva. And this day, on February 26th, Wednesday, is commemorating the wedding of Shiva and Parvati. So, we will end with Lord Shiva's prayers to Lord Krishna. You're please welcome to read along with me. This is from Bhagavatam. Let's all read together. Lord Shiva addressed the Supreme Personality of Godhead with the following prayer. O Supreme Personality of Godhead, all glories unto you. You are the most exalted of all self-realized souls. Since you are always auspicious for the self-realized, I wish that you be auspicious for me. You are worshipable by virtue of all perfect instructions you give. You are the super soul. Therefore, I offer my obeisances unto you as a supreme living beings. In fact, Bhagavatam 4:24, 33 to 68 are the most beautiful prayers that Lord Shiva is offering to Lord Krishna. I strongly encourage you to read those on Wednesday, the day of Shivaratri. And finally, Srila Prabhupada has indicated, quote, a devotee of Lord Krishna does not disrespect Lord Shiva, but worships Lord Shiva as the most exalted devotee of Lord Krishna. Consequently, whenever a devotee worships Lord Shiva, he prays to Lord Shiva to achieve the favor of Krishna, and he does not request any material profit. Very, very important to understand that we do not worship Lord Shiva independent of Lord Krishna. If we somehow do worship Lord Shiva, it is with the desire to give us devotional service to Lord Krishna. So I just wanted to end here. And since it's kind of late, I will not be taking any questions. I'll be taking questions privately, but Prashadam is being served. So please go ahead. And thank you so much for your patience and sitting here. Hare Krishna.